Thank you for that. Also breaking at 6, one man has been shot dead in Pawtucket. It happened on Randall Street this afternoon, and here's a look at the scene where you can see several police cars in the area. Pawtucket City Council member Melissa DeRosa tells 12 News the victim is a man in his 20s and is an only child. She says all the violence is exhausting and too many lives have been lost to guns.
It does not matter what side of town you're from or what side of town you're on or where the violence takes place. The gun violence is traumatizing everyone, everywhere, in every city, in every community, and we have to take a stance to prevent anything from happening any further from here.
There is currently no word on any arrests. We have several calls into police for more on this investigation.
On a quiet afternoon in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, a man sat inside his vehicle on Randall Street. To anyone passing by, it looked like a completely ordinary moment. Cars moved through the neighborhood. People went about their day. Nothing appeared unusual. But somewhere nearby, someone was watching. Someone who had already made a decision that would turn an ordinary afternoon into a crime scene. Within minutes, gunshots would ring out, and when the echoes faded, one man would be dead. The case would quickly send shockwaves through the community, raising questions about street rivalries, revenge, and how quickly violence can erupt when tensions have been building behind the scenes. But the story of what happened that day is far more complicated than it first appears, because this killing did not begin on Randall Street. It began long before that afternoon with a feud, a belief, and a fatal mistake. May 15, 2021. It was a typical Saturday afternoon in Pawtucket. Traffic moved steadily through the streets. Neighbors were outside. Some people were running errands, others were simply enjoying the day. But at some point that afternoon, a Subaru Impreza began driving through the neighborhood. Inside the car was a young man, just 20 years old at the time. His name was Jahcolin Rodrigues. And according to investigators, he wasn't just driving around randomly, he was looking for someone. As the Subaru moved through the streets, Rodrigues spotted a vehicle parked nearby. Inside that vehicle was a man named Leonardo Tavares. To anyone watching from a distance, nothing about the scene looked unusual. 2 cars, 2 people, a quiet neighborhood. But what happened next suggests that something had already been set in motion. Instead of continuing down the street, the Subaru kept moving. Then it circled back.
First tonight, the gun violence continuing today. 2 shootings within hours of each other after 2 deadly shootings just last night. Now, all of this coming only days after the capital city's largest shooting in history. And concern is mounting amongst residents and local leaders. 12 News reporter Brittany Schaefer covered today's shootings in Providence and Pawtucket. She joins us now from the Public Safety Complex in Providence with the details we're learning tonight. Brittany?
Well, this is the 3rd shooting in Providence in just 3 days. Police say 3 people were shot in 2 separate incidents in Providence and Pawtucket.
Retaliation is not helping anybody.
Melissa DeRosa is pleading for ceasefire after she says a close friend was killed in broad daylight.
He is the only child of his mother, very loved by his family, very young, in his 20s. Had a whole life ahead of him.
According to Pawtucket police, the man was killed after being shot in a vehicle on Randall Street. They say it appears the victim was targeted. About an hour later, Providence police say 2 people were shot on Camp Street. Major David LePayton says their injuries are non-life-threatening. State Senator Tiara Mack lives a few homes away and tells us it's disturbing this happened feet away from Billy Taylor Park.
It's not at all common. I've been here for 5 years and have never had anything like this happen. So, I mean, it's jarring and it's shocking.
Saturday's shootings follow multiple others in Rhode Island. 2 days ago, 9 people were injured in Providence's largest shooting in history. And just last night, a man was shot to death on Pope Street. Max says there's no easy fix to this violence, but the community needs to come together.
It's heartbreaking, and I don't think I have all the right words, but I know that we need to gather all the folks involved, and offer them some hope and also offer them some resources.
And again, the 2 people shot on Camp Street are expected to be okay. We have not heard of any arrests in either Providence or Pawtucket. No word yet on if any of these shootings are connected.
When Rodrigues came back around the block, the Nissan Rogue was still there. Leonardo Tavares was still inside. Investigations later believed that this was the moment everything changed, because the Subaru didn't just pass by, it slowed, and suddenly, gunfire erupted. Multiple shots were fired directly into the Nissan Rogue. The attack happened quickly. Within seconds, the quiet street had turned into chaos. When the shooting stopped, Leonardo Tavares had been struck multiple times. He didn't survive. The shooter fled the area, and just like that, another life had been taken in the act of sudden violence. But for investigators, the questions were only beginning. Who had pulled the trigger? Why had this man been targeted? And what exactly led to this deadly confrontation?
Hi, I'm Gina Marini with the 12 News Now update. Pawtucket police tell us they've arrested 2 suspects in connection with the deadly shooting. 20-year-old Jahcolin Rodrigues of Providence and 30-year-old Todd Alisea of Pawtucket. They're accused of killing 20-year-old Leonardo Tavares, who police say was found with several gunshot wounds inside a car on Randall Street back on May 15th. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Stay with 12 News and WPRI.com for updates as we continue to learn more.
When police arrived at the scene, the evidence pointed to a deliberate attack. This wasn't random. Someone had driven through the neighborhood, seen the victim, and returned to carry out the shooting. Detectives began collecting surveillance footage from nearby cameras. They canvassed the area. They spoke with witnesses, and slowly, a clearer picture started to emerge. Several witnesses reported seeing the Subaru Impreza in the area around the time of the shooting. More importantly, video surveillance captured the vehicle as it moved through the neighborhood. But the footage revealed something even more significant: the driver. According to investigators, multiple witnesses were able to identify the person behind the wheel. The name they gave police was Jahcolin Rodrigues. But even with the suspect identified, one major question still remained. Why? What had caused the young man to circle a block, open fire into another vehicle, and then disappear? The answer would lead investigators into a world of street rivalries. As detectives continued digging into the case, they began uncovering possible motives. According to investigators, Rodrigues had an ongoing feud with members and affiliates of a street gang known as Bucket West. Tensions between rival groups had been simmering, and in environments where reputation and retaliation often play a role, misidentifications and assumptions can turn deadly. Investigators believe Rodrigues thought Leonardo Tavares had ties to Bucket West. That belief, whether accurate or not, may have sealed the victim's fate, because once Rodrigues spotted him that afternoon, he didn't drive away. Instead, he circled the block, and moments later, the gunfire began. What happened on Randall Street may have been the result of a feud that had been building quietly in the background, but proving that in court would require evidence.
A man will spend the rest of his life in prison for the drive-by shooting death of a Pawtucket man 3 years ago.
12 News reporter Alex Torres Perez goes over what his loved ones had to say before the sentencing. Alex?
Mike and Shannon, Leonardo Tavares' loved ones asked us not to show their faces as they gave emotional impact statements in court today. Their pain and heartbreak still felt years after the murder.
I wish this never happened. If I could go back and change the hand of time, I would.
But now Jahcolin Rodrigues will have to spend the rest of his life in prison thinking about his actions on May 15th, 2021.
The day my heart shattered into pieces.
Pawtucket police say Rodrigues was the one to pull the trigger after noticing Leonardo Tavares driving through the city. Investigators say the shooting was targeted and part of a gang feud, but families still can't make sense of it.
They say time helps heal, but I don't think this is possible. 3 years later, and when that day replays in my head, the hurt still feels the same. The suffocation I felt when I got the news comes back. The stabbing sensation I feel in my heart comes back just as strong.
They describe Leo as a loving and loyal person who put his family, especially his mother and son, first.
If you were part of his life, he would do everything in his power to make sure you were good.
But the grief goes beyond Leo's family into the entire Cape Verdean community.
He didn't just break one heart, he broke many. There's a saying that all Cape Verdeans are related. So the defendant, he didn't just hurt Leo's family, he hurt his own family as well.
Something Rodrigues agrees with.
I'm sorry beyond my words.
And justice is still not done for Leo's family. The second suspect is still in the middle of court proceedings. Todd Alicia had a hearing scheduled for today, but it was continued until next month.
Detectives from the Pawtucket Police Department worked alongside investigators from Province. Together, they pieced together the timeline, video surveillance, witness statements, vehicle identification. Each piece helped strengthen the case. Eventually, the evidence pointed clearly toward one suspect, Jahcolin Rodrigues. As the case moved through the legal system, prosecutors prepared to present their findings. But before a full trial could begin, Rodrigues made a decision. On August 15th, he pleaded guilty to 2 serious charges, first-degree murder and discharging a firearm from a motor vehicle. With that plea, the case moved toward sentencing.
A man will spend the rest of his life in prison for the drive-by shooting death of a Pawtucket man 3 years ago.
12 News reporter Alex Torres Perez goes over what his loved ones had to say before the sentencing. Alex?
Mike and Shannon, Leonardo Tavares' loved ones asked us not to show their faces as they gave emotional impact statements in court today. Their pain and heartbreak still felt years after the murder.
I wish this never happened. If I could go back and change the hand of time, I would.
But now Jahcolin Rodrigues will have to spend the rest of his life in prison thinking about his actions on May 15th, 2021.
The day my heart shattered into pieces.
Pawtucket police say Rodrigues was the one to pull the trigger after noticing Leonardo Tavares driving through the city. Investigators say the shooting was targeted and part of a gang feud, but families still can't make sense of it.
They say time helps heal, but I don't think this is possible. 3 years later, and when that day replays in my head, the hurt still feels the same. The suffocation I felt when I got the news comes back. The stabbing sensation I feel in my heart comes back just as strong.
They describe Leo as a loving and loyal person who put his family, especially his mother and son, first.
If you were part of his life, he would do everything in his power to make sure you were good.
But the grief goes beyond Leo's family into the entire Cape Verdean community.
He didn't just break one heart, he broke many. There's a saying that all Cape Verdeans are related. So the defendant, he didn't just hurt Leo's family, he hurt his own family as well.
Something Rodrigues agrees with.
I'm sorry beyond my words.
And justice is still not done for Leo's family. The second suspect is still in the middle of court proceedings. Todd Alicia had a hearing scheduled for today, but it was continued until next month. Reporting in studio, I'm Alex Torres Perez, 12 News.
The man who pulled the trigger in a deadly drive-by shooting in Pawtucket 3 years ago will spend the rest of his life in prison. 12 News reporter Alex Torres Perez goes over the sentencing and what the victim's loved ones had to say today. Alex?
Well, Mike, the murder trial was actually supposed to begin today, but the suspect took a plea deal sparring Leonardo Tavares' loved ones of having to relive his final moments. However, the family asked us not to show their faces because the pain is still too much to bear. Jahcolin Rodrigues will spend the rest of his life in prison after Pawtucket police say he pulled the trigger in a targeted drive-by shooting that killed Leonardo Tavares 3 years ago. Police believe it was part of a gang feud, but loved ones say Leo was a loving and loyal person who was working to better himself for his family, especially his mother and son.
The community has lost someone who was on a path for change, someone whose story could have inspired others, but now we're left with pain of what could have been.
Leo's nonviolence teacher says she was devastated and broken by his death.
Despite my efforts, I couldn't protect him from. I couldn't protect him from the violence that claimed his life. You didn't just kill him, you killed Pawtucket.
She pleads for Rodrigues to spend his time in prison to change. Rodrigues has spent his time at the ACI reflecting on those actions and had this to say to the family.
I'm sorry beyond my words. I wish this never happened. If I could go back and change the hand of time, I would. And I just apologize.
Rodrigues does have the possibility of parole, but justice is still not done for the victim's family.
On September 9th, 2024, inside Providence County Superior Court, the final chapter of the case was written. Judge Maureen B. Keogh delivered the sentence. Jahcolin Rodrigues, now 23 years old, would spend the rest of his life behind bars, life in prison, plus an additional 20 years. The sentence would be served at the adult correctional institutions. For the victim's family, the ruling brought a form of justice, but as in many cases involving gun violence, the damage had already been done. A life lost, a family forever changed, and a community once again forced to confront the reality of how quickly violence can erupt. Attorney General Peter F. Narana later spoke about the case, calling gun violence an unfortunate reality that continues to impact communities. But he also pointed to the importance of accountability, because when acts of violence occur, bringing those responsible to justice becomes critical. In this case, the investigation involved multiple law enforcement agencies, including detectives from Pawtucket and Providence. Their work helped uncover the truth behind what happened on Randall Street that afternoon. But even with the case closed, the story serves as a reminder how quickly assumptions, rivalries, and anger can spiral into something irreversible. One afternoon, one decision, and one moment that changed everything. Because on May 15, 2021, a quiet street in Pawtucket became the scene of a deadly act of violence, and for one man, that moment will ultimately lead to a life sentence. Alright y'all, there y'all have it, man. That's the story of the 4'6" shooter from Rhode Island, man. Hey, get in that comment section, let me know what y'all think. Drillers and trappers, we outside trapping and drilling 247. Don't go nowhere. Watch that next video. Gang!